Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. Speaking of illuminating and entertaining, my next guest joins us right now. I read his stuff because, well, it's just a little bit different take on things. Rob Morse joins us from Slow Facts. Fast opinions come and go. Here are the slow facts, he says. Hey, Rob.
Hey, Tom. It's great to be with you again.
Good to be with you. One of the things I like about what you do is you take what a lot of people would be talking about, a particular topic, and then stop and slow down and say, okay, rather than let's just spout the regular old social media stuff that you hear, the big chest thumping, cold dead hands, I lost all my guns in a boat accident, stupid stuff that people say. You actually say, well, let's think about that a little bit. And you do it in such a way that's very digestible. And I appreciate that. I guess the first question is, how did you come to this approach?
I just thought there are other people who are more clever than I am. If I've got anything to offer, I better slow down.
Okay, I doubt the first part of that, but I do appreciate what you're doing. One of the ones that got my attention recently is you're talking about basically using a gun in self-defense. When to shoot, when not to shoot, and what to do if you have to shoot. I guess that's the real question is, how do you know if you have to shoot? You want to just kind of talk about that?
You and I now, and you with Gun Talk TV, you'll take people and put them in what look and feel like a self-defense situation. Because I've written enough, I got in touch with a lady who had to present her firearm. Thank goodness she didn't have to shoot. Now, she got a little bit tangled up later. Somebody asked for a protection order against her, but it was a relative, a family matter. This one where she was threatened by a 23-year-old with a butcher knife in public. Everybody saw it. The officer said, you did the right thing to present. Unfortunately, she didn't call her lawyers early enough to prevent the protective order. That got straightened out. But I realized I'm doing my students a misservice. They always want to know, when should I shoot? And I think this young woman saved her attacker's life because she saw a threat. She didn't wait until the last moment when she had no other choice. She presented, and he stopped.
Interesting.
And here's what I tell my students now.
Uh-huh.
If there's a break-in into your home, would you want Grandma to wait there with her knitting? She's got her hand in her knitting bag. Would you want her to wait till the last minute to present her gun, so the only choice she had was to press the trigger? No, of course not. We say, present your gun.
Uh-huh.
Grandma does what Grandma does. Says, I'm armed, get out. I'm armed, get out. And the guy does.
Okay, and now we get into the question, and I agree with everything you're saying, and the question becomes, there's this line between when is it legitimate to pull out your gun and face the threat versus the concept of brandishing a gun.
Right. Isn't that interesting? We don't want to, and you're right, it's subtle, and we don't do a great job teaching it. What we don't want to do is aggravate or increase the level of threat. Yeah, You're going to do what I say because I have a gun, see here. No, wait a minute. You're increasing the threat. Did you de-escalate the situation by saying, please stop, because if not, I'll have to shoot you, okay? You're using it to stop the threat. The issues are almost identical. Do we see motive? Are we in jeopardy? Was it immediate? Was it unavoidable? Okay, that word immediate, it turns out, has some gray area.
Mm-hmm.
If I can present him, if he's across the street, it's not a threat yet. I might be able to get in my car and drive away. If they're coming at me and he's 30 feet away, I'm running out of options, but I can present to the low ready and yell stop. Now, again, you need to know that he can move forward faster than you can back up.
Yeah, but what you're doing, Rob, is you're giving him an opportunity to make a good decision.
Yep. Yeah.
And if you say, and if he makes a bad decision, so be it, and there you go. but you've given him an opportunity to make a good decision. And as you said in your example, and maybe saving his life versus if you wait until he's right on top of you, you have no other choice than to shoot him. But I want to go to the part where you talked about this woman got into a little bit of a trouble afterwards. And I always say that if you have to pull your gun out, you must call 911, even if you don't shoot, even if you think nobody saw you. Somebody saw you. Somebody probably has a video of it. And at that point, it becomes a race to see who gets to call 911 first, the bad guy or you, because the bad guys are really good at calling and saying, this crazy person pulled a gun on me, blah, blah, blah. Now they're looking for the crazy person with a gun. That is you.
That could be you. Turns out she didn't, because she was standing there. Her gun was locked in her car on the street. Everybody called. There were enough witnesses who told the truth, so she could have done better there to make that call. At the scene, she was not charged. In fact, the deputy said, you did the right thing. But she needed to then win the race to her lawyer to probably take out a protective order against this attacker and his family.
As well as when the police get there saying, this is what happened. I want to file charges against this person who attacked me. That's a pretty good tool to have in your toolbox as well.
Now, what we haven't mentioned is this guy was an addict. He was drunk at 10 in the morning. He went to his court date, intoxicated. Okay, Now it's easier to say to the judge, there's a pattern of bad behavior. I'm afraid it's going to continue. I need a restraining order.
Rob, what I'm coming to from all this, you talk about your students, and it goes back to if you're not involved in continuing education on this subject, you're cheating yourself. And more than that, you're putting yourself at serious risk of legal repercussions. You have to be going back and taking classes. You have to be reading about this all the time. You have to be reading what you put out. You got to read what Masada you puts out. You got to read what everybody else is putting out. You got to become a student of this, don't you?
Our colleague calls it being the student of the gun. Yes. Your listeners are way ahead of the average public. And now we've got millions of new people who came into gun ownership, and they're not from the gun culture. How are we going to get them all to listen to Gun Talk, Tom?
Well, we spread the word, but also you get them to read your work. You get them to read everything else. And I keep telling everybody, read, and not just not just the nonsense on social media of, chest thumping, stack up or shut up, all that kind of stuff. No, choose your sources carefully and say, does this really make sense? Rob, tell them where they can read more of your work.
Well, I host the Self-Defense Gun Stories podcast. I'm a co-host on the Polite Society podcast. My blog is at slowfacts.wordpress.com. From there, my writing's picked up and carried at AmmoLand. Thanks, Tom.
Well, you mentioned something there. I want to get it before we have to hit the break here. The podcast you're doing. When I started doing this, there was nothing. I was out there by myself, and now there are all these really good podcasts and broadcasts about it. And, making yourself available to those and getting a lot of different views is very worthwhile. And you and the other podcasters are doing great work.
We can serve a niche. And, maybe you can't get to the range as often as you'd like, but as you're driving to work, take yourself to school for 15 minutes.
I like that. You're going to gun school while you're driving.
Yep.
There you go. Rob, thank you so much. Rob Morse, I appreciate everything you do, and you're welcome back here anytime, okay?
Thank you, my friend.
All righty, you take care. You got to take charge of your own education. And the more educated you are, the better equipped you are.